Say one, two, 1, 2, 3.
Hello, my name is Mike Stewart, and this is a story, a digital story that I've created about my stay here in San Diego, and I call it From the Revolutionary 60s to the Multicultural Present, Changes in the Music Scene in San Diego. In 1970 to 1980, there was a folk rock feeling in the air. I had just arrived from Chicago to San Diego and was destined to play music in the restaurants and the nightclubs of this area. My first experience in San Diego was on Genesee and Balboa Avenue in Claremont. The place was called the Stag and Hound, and which 5 years later became the London Opera House. They had some of the original bands of San Diego, like O Ridge and the O.D. Corral, and numerous small bands playing the hot folk rock music. It was pulled down as the big shopping centers began to be developed, and as you probably know, Home Depot is now there on that site. There was also a great place right next to the airport called Broom Trenchard's Flare Path. It was a popular spot for folk rock and comedy. This club was a great place with one side of the restaurant completely glassed in so as to watch the airplanes land and take off at the airport. It was a place to go for 10 years until one day a jet accidentally turned the wrong way while taxiing and turned its jet engines toward the glass window. No one was hurt, but the glass exploded and the whole side of the restaurant was blown out. Meanwhile, Jean, Sweet Jean, that is the other half of this raggle-taggle band that we're talking about, was living in northern England and singing folk music in the pubs before emigrating to the U.S. in 1978. Well, back to some more of the history. Another movement in San Diego was the bossa nova and jazz movement. While I was going to school, majoring in mathematics, I was also working as a waiter and helping start the jazz music at Chuck's Steakhouse on Prospect, that was in La Jolla. And we were playing bossa nova and jazz. San Diego's own Joe Murillo was also playing his wonderful jazz there, among other places around the La Jolla area. The movement quickly caught on, and Botsford's across the street in La Jolla became the in spot for French gypsy swing as well as gold digging with the rich. Well, then after that I moved to Balboa Park in the original Café Del Rey Moro. I continued crossover music by working with a pedal harp player performing new age folk jazz. What a blend. This led to the development of folk fusion that Jean and I created there at the cafe. Simultaneously, we continued developing the Renaissance style for the opening of the new Old Globe Theater there in Balboa Park. We created the ambience for the theater by performing before the plays would start. This green entertainment, as they called it, caught the eye of investors from the popular Minnesota Renaissance Fair. They soon funded the San Diego Renaissance Fair in Balboa Park and became independent from the Old Globe Theater and made the whole of the park a stage. Now up the coast in Del Mar and Encinitas were places like the Golden Rolling Belly, the Knotsome Flotsam, the Triton, and later the Belly Up Tavern, which still does exist today. These places were still folk rock, but as time went on, reflected the rich tapestry of music going on in the 80s. Many of the musicians in this era became upstanding parts of society: highway patrolmen, teachers, real estate agents, world-class surfers, and Las Vegas entertainers. Well, Jean and I met in 1980 and blended our music into Celtic gypsy swing. So the 1980s to 1990s now, and San Diego was just beginning to grow. Our ragtag group of entertainers created a group called Jackstraws. It was an English shanty band and found widespread support in San Diego. Soon the founders of this band left and went to Europe for a couple of tours, and Jean and I found ourselves in need of a new band name reflecting the blend of English, Irish, French gypsy swing, Renaissance, and jazz. Then we founded the music group known as Raggle Taggle, named after the European folk song, the Raggle Taggle Gypsy. We mainly performed the songs of England, Ireland, and Scotland, and many of the gigs were Renaissance banquets or big public events. This was the era of the street performer in San Diego. We offered themed entertainment with full costumes, the main ones being Renaissance, Pirate, and Irish. Our band performed up close and personal with the audience and encouraged them to sing along and dance with our jigs and reels. Our specialty was the 3- and 4-part harmonies, as well as Irish dance routines. Our days were numbered as street performers because there was no support from the Port District of San Diego for the type of street entertainment one sees in San Francisco, London, or other cosmopolitan cities throughout the world. Fortunately for our raggle-taggle band, we performed at many conventions, as well as most grand openings. Among them, the most well-known are Seaport Village, the Old Globe Theater, North County Fair, Horton Plaza, Bonita Shopping Center, Embassy Suites, and the Star of India. Then comes the 1990s. As the street performer era diminished, the main demand for music was at house parties and weddings, where there was a demand for a wide variety of music, of folk music, jazz, standards, rock and roll, and dance numbers. This was the party era, and we were the catalyst to get parties to kick into high gear. The 90s went fast, and we found ourselves in the year 2000. Well, at the same time that the gas lamp was emerging during this time as a hot spot for the world of music, River Dance and Lord of the Dance was hot and exciting. One of the pubs in the gas lamp decided to develop an Irish pub dance review and asked me to help coordinate and develop the music and the show. With musicians from popular Irish bands in San Diego like Skelpin, Jackstraws, Celtic Karma, and dance companies directly affiliated with River Dance and Lord of the Dance, we rallied the Celtic community and created the Dublin Fusion Irish Dance Cabaret, and it still runs at Dublin Square Pub in the gas lamp. Over the past few years, there has once again been a change in the San Diego music scene. Demand is now for instrumental low-key jazz trios or instrumental Irish trios. Vocals are no longer wanted, no longer in demand, and DJs are most likely to be hired for the weddings. We are now in the potted palm band era, where music is the low-key background, and the musicians are in hip black clothes. At the other end of the spectrum is the show band, which has 8 to 9 musicians and performs at large venues, such as the local casinos or at the convention events. As a band, you constantly have to reinvent yourself as trends come and go, and also as musicians come and go. We will keep playing until we're too old to play because we can't imagine our lives without music. San Diego is once again going through another huge growth spurt, and we will be looking to see what the next big fad is going to be.